why I don't broker cars anymore. I used to love to find cars for people when they would contact me with a request and say, I'm looking for this type of Mercedes or that type of Mercedes. And you know what? I'd get on the internet and I'd say, hey, I think I located one, or I think I know a guy who has one, or I think I know a guy who knows a guy who has one. You know, let's see if we can make this happen. I used to really enjoy that. But in the last 6 to 8 months, I have put the brakes on. Now, why have I put the brakes on this sort of thing? Why did I stop? Well, expectations. I have learned something. This is another feather in my cap, another knowledge feather that I've put in my cap about brokering cars. When I, as a mechanic, tell somebody about a car for sale, let's say that Joe Schmo contacts, well, maybe a better word, maybe somebody who's looking for a specific type of Mercedes that was referred to me but hasn't worked with me before, contacts me and says, I'm looking for a 450 SL. And I put them in touch with the seller of a 450 SL. A car I've never worked on, a car I just say, hey, this car's in decent cosmetic condition, maybe we can make this work. The person who is buying the car knows nothing about the mechanical process, knows nothing about what the cars need, thinks that because I've referred the car, it must be a good car with no needs. And when they find out it's not, suddenly it's my responsibility to address every single problem on the car. Why have I stopped doing this? Well, now we know. And I really loved this. I loved it. You know, I still might do it for a select customer that I've worked with regularly, but it's dangerous. It's become very dangerous. And here's why it is so dangerous. Because the money you pay for the car, if you pay $5,000, $10,000, you know, for a nice R107 or 126 or 124 or 113 or 123 or 108, you know, the car is ultimately going to require more money in repairs than it costs to buy the car. Now, if you're used to this, it shouldn't bother you and doesn't bother you. It just shouldn't. It should be sort of like when you become a scuba diver. You know that if things don't go right, you could drown. It's just something you know. But somebody who's never been diving before may not have the personal realization that when something goes wrong, they could drown. I'm not saying you're going to drown in fixing a classic Mercedes, but there's a simple truth here. There are a lot of great classic Mercedes that are priced well below market that need a lot of work, that are in decent cosmetic condition. They have good engines, they have good transmissions, they have nice interiors, but all of those mechanical issues that never got addressed will need to be addressed, and they'll need to be addressed because the car has sat for so long. And when somebody buys a car through someone like me, they think that even though the car has sat for the last, 25, 30 years or so, that somehow I've snapped my fingers and found a car where the ravages of time have not affected the car. And that's simply not possible. So, is this why I've stopped selling people or brokering cars for people? Well, no, because I could just simply tell my customers, you know what? That's the way it is. It's tough. No, the problem is that my conscience gets in the way. Now, here we go. The peanut gallery is going, oh, Pierre's trying to paint himself as a saint. Oh, he's trying to suggest to people he's a much better person than he is, No, it's more like I have a hard time leading a person into a financial decision that was not 100% theirs, because then I feel like I'm also culpable. How do I absolve myself of culpability? Well, telling a person isn't really a great way to absolve them of culpability. For example, with my daughter, telling her that if she approaches a dog and the dog might bite her, she may understand that dogs bite, but she doesn't have the personal knowledge that dogs bite as a 4-year-old. Many of the customers I work with for the first time may be incredibly intelligent, but they don't have the degree of familiarity and experience to understand that the car is going to bite them. Therefore, telling somebody isn't enough. You physically have to stop them from doing it. So if my daughter approaches a strange dog, I'm not going to tell her not to. I'm going to grab her and stop her from doing it. If a customer approaches me and says, "Do you know of a 280 SL for sale?" I'm going to stop them and say, "Don't even think about it. You need to do more research and familiarize yourself with the cars. You can ask me any questions you need to, but I'm not going to lead you to a car, just like I'm not going to lead my daughter to a dog that will bite her." Or, to use a more mild analogy, I'm not going to, when I do meal prep for my family, I'm not going to prepare foods for them that are going to contribute to decline in their health over time. One of the things that I find so frustrating about the world of selling cars versus the world of fixing cars is that you can't really do both and sleep at night. That's why I tell people who sell cars, focus on selling cars, because if you get the experience working with customers and restoring them, it becomes a lot harder to tell people, "Hey, this is a great car." It becomes very difficult, probably impossible, without lying. I look at somebody who has managed to juggle the model of sorting out the car and selling it. There are a few people who have managed to do that. It's a very hard model. It's a hard life because the customers still come and complain when they didn't buy a new car from 1979. It's just not possible. You have to separate the two. That's why I only fix cars. That's why I don't sell them. If I buy a car, it's for my personal enjoyment and satisfaction, even if it sits and does nothing for 20 years, 10 years, 30 years, etc. I can't do that. I can't just pass a car on to somebody unless they're like a dealer or a broker or something, because I know that whatever their expectations are, I'm not going to be able to meet them. And whatever I tell them isn't going to matter because they don't have the personal experience to understand what I am trying to tell them, especially when I warn them about the costs of sorting out a car. It hurts. It's expensive. Owning a classic Mercedes from, early 90s, 80s, 70s, it's an expensive endeavor. It's getting more expensive. The bills for these cars used to be $5,000. They became $10,000. They became $12,000. They became $15,000. Then they became $20,000. Then they went to $25,000. Now they're sitting like between $25,000 and $30,000. And why is that? Well, labor, I mean, this is something I've made other videos on, but people don't want to do this. You can't take a 40-year-old Mercedes to a shop and ask them to sort it out and spend months on the car and make it work right. And the ones that do specialize in 40 or 50 or 60-year-old Mercedes only want to work on SLs and cabriolets because they know there's guaranteed value there. And that's smart. You're using your head over your emotions. Unfortunately, to some degree, I let my emotions into the mix because I enjoy the feeling I get when I put a car nobody cared about back on the road. I like that, but the cost is undeniable. And why is that? Well, it's because I have to have a team to do this. They have to be paid a fair wage. Even with my labor rate of $195 an hour, if any of you were wondering, I make enough to support my family and enough to save a little bit of money. I'm not going to be able to go out and buy a nice big house. I'm not going to be able to go on a luxury vacation. Can I afford a serious medical bill? Hopefully. Can I afford, to improve things in my house or to send my children to better schools? Yes. But my employees have to be able to do the same thing. And I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I have to do free repairs to compensate for somebody's misaligned expectations because of their lack of experience buying a car that sat for 30 years, a 50-year-old car that sat for 30 years. I can't do it. I can't. It's too hard. You know, it hurts. Everybody gets mad. I mean, I hate confrontation. I don't know anybody that likes confrontation. I think my friend Tim is probably much better at confrontation than I am, you know, and I talked to him about this a few times. We were talking about this. He owns some 126 cars, and his we'll talk about haram works later, but you know, we were talking about confrontation among customers, and I think that we live in a world now where confrontation has become haram, where we can't do that. Instead, people just get upset with you, they feel hurt, they ghost you, and sometimes that hurts even more than confrontation because I want my customers to have confidence in me. And I don't see, if I broker cars, how anybody would have confidence in me, because the explanation of what the car needs is like, it's just more than most people can handle. Unless they buy it themselves and it's their decision. Then suddenly it's all good. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the future. Please like, share, subscribe, tap the bell for notifications. And forgive me if I have offended you. I'll see you in the future.